What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. You can email us, PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text us 865-658-5824. Joined alongside Tim in a remote location. All right, he's on a secret assignment. We'll make it sound way, way, way more important than it is, Tim. That's the secret to this business, right?
That's right, man. You got to sell it. Got to sell it. Remote is correct, though. It's definitely remote. I look out the window, all I see are trees. So it's a good thing.
And Jacob, he's on assignment at Brookview Meadows tonight. So we'll have him back tomorrow, I'm sure.
Jacob's at the buffet line right now. I hope he's got a beard net for his beard when he's putting stuff on the.
I bet he's got a tuxedo on right now. He's down there really trying to impress tonight. I guarantee you. So I'll tell you who else impresses me. That's the good folks over at Ticket King. The official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access Live, Wisconsin-based since '92, specializing in Packers tickets. They are Wisconsin's largest ticket source with offices next to Lambeau and in Milwaukee. Click on the link in the video description here that'll send you to their website, theticketking.com, where you can register for free as a customer. Go ahead and start shopping for your Packers tickets. Again, that is Ticket King, the official ticket provider of Packer Fan Total Access. We appreciate them supporting the show. So a couple of things came down the pike here, Tim. We got the PFF grades from the Ravens game. We're going to hit on that. We're also going to kind of look at the PFF grades from the preseason as a whole. I think that's kind of cool to kind of step back and take a look at, all right, how did everyone perform from PFF's perspective? Obviously, it's not everything, but just another tool we can use. But first things first, pretty cool. I've seen this come through from the Pro Football Network. 2024 head coach rankings. Anytime I see a head coach ranking, I'm going to put it on the show because I want to kind of see how everyone feels about where Matt LaFleur is across the league. So obviously number one goes without saying, Andy Reid. Number two, they've got Sean McVay. Number three, they got John Harbaugh from the Baltimore Ravens. Number four, Kyle Shanahan from the 49ers. Number five, Mike Tomlin from the Steelers. And then Matt LaFleur comes in at number six, right ahead of Dan Campbell at number seven, Mike McDaniel at 8, Sean Payton at 9, Jim Harbaugh at 10. The thing that sticks out to me is the fact that Mike McCarthy isn't in this top 10 right now. It blows my mind with what he's done down there in Dallas. Just the guy always wins, and it's 1 second it's Aaron Rodgers is the only reason he's winning. Next second it's Dak Prescott. It's like sooner or later he's going to have to get his props, man, because he has one of the highest winning percentages amongst active coaches and really coaches all time. Although Matt LaFleur is damn near elite in that statistic, which is really cool. I don't really have any qualms with this one here, Tim, with this list. Andy Reid, obviously the GOAT. Sean McVay's won a Super Bowl, the youngest quarterback or the youngest coach to do so, made it to 2 Super Bowls. John Harbaugh, Super Bowl winning coach. Kyle Shanahan being above Matt. That one kind of bothers me just a touch. I would imagine that there's a little bias there. The fact that Matt LaFleur kind of stemmed from his coaching tree. They probably looking at it like that as opposed to Matt being better than Kyle. But, I mean, the reality is he's got a higher winning percentage than Kyle Shanahan, and Kyle Shanahan has had way, way more talent, I would argue, overall on the roster. When you look at, like, we always talk about Brock Purdy, and it's like, well, Brock Purdy's surrounded by superstars, right? And then you look at the Packers, they got one of the youngest rosters in the league. Mike Tomlin, Super Bowl winning coach, can't argue with it. If I'm going to be negative from a anti-Packers perspective here, I kind of wonder if Dan Campbell should be above Matt LaFleur, but it's so close, I'm taking Matt LaFleur over him. So the only thing I would change here is I would slide Shanahan down to maybe 7 or 8 and move Matt up 1 spot at the number 5 spot. Everyone else slide up above Matt too. How do you feel about that list, man?
I think it's fair. I'm kind of the same sentiment as you, Clay. I look at Matt LaFleur and Dan Campbell there neck and neck at 6 and 7. I mean, the thing they got in common besides being great head coaches is they haven't won anything yet. And I truly believe that that's what it's going to take for our guy, Tupac LaFleur, to get over the hump, work his way up this list. You look at the people he's ahead of, Dan Campbell, Mike McDaniel is another great young football mind down there in Miami. And obviously Sean Payton is proven. And you've got the other Harbaugh brother rounding out the bottom of the list. So to see Matt LaFleur teetering near top 5 makes me feel good. And getting out of the NFC into a Super Bowl would shoot him up the list alone. And then, of course, bringing Lombardi home, as I predict will happen, that's going to make him coach of the year material. And, he'll be neck and neck with those guys, like you said, Shanahan and Tomlin, some elite coaches there. I mean, this is rare company. I think this is a fair top 10 list. Honestly, I really do.
Yeah, I do too. And Jim Harbaugh, he has got I think he has the highest winning percentage amongst active coaches, if I remember correctly. And that's wild to think about. And I know he's not been in the league for some time, but what he did in San Francisco was pretty remarkable. Obviously, Sean Payton, another Super Bowl winning coach, Mike McDaniel, and you kind of understand now why Kyle Shanahan had the success he had when all these guys were on the coaching staff with him. I mean, you're talking about Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, and Mike McDaniel all on the same coaching staff at one point. That's pretty wild to think about. And it's cool to see everybody's kind of niche, right? If I remember correctly, Sean McVay started off as a tight ends coach and worked his way into kind of quality control, offensive coordinator, kind of the global perspective of everything. Matt LaFleur was the quarterback guru, the quarterback coach. Mike McDaniel was the running coach, the running game coach. So it's cool to see everybody kind of have their own little niches within that little community there. All right, let's kick it over to Patreon real quick. We asked some kicking questions earlier today. Boy. And and I wanted to include our Patreon group, which is just absolutely awesome. Appreciate you guys and gals and responding and obviously supporting the show.
Hold on, did you say kicking questions, Clayton?
Yeah, here we go.
Yes, sir. You know it. If you guys are interested in joining the Patreon group, just scan the QR code in the upper right. That'll send you to patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. You can also just go to the website and search Packer Fan Total Access. And we've got multiple chats set up, as you can kind of see right here, for anyone who can't get enough Packers talk. We get the latest news for all the members. You see anything drop before anyone else, pop the link in there, show the latest news around the Packers. We got questions for the show, which is really cool. So you guys can fire questions at the show in there, as well as we're going to ask questions to the Patreon members because we want to get your all's take on everything. We get the general chat and then, of course, Chalk Talk questions. So I try to include everything I do in Chalk Talk into that chat. Anyone has questions or has a comment or an idea for another Chalk Talk, we kind of put it in there. So, again, thanks everybody who's joined the Patreon group. We appreciate y'all. So, first things first, question for the show. If you had to choose between Anders Carlson and Greg Joseph, who's your kicker? Just kind of testing everyone's pulse. We did this on Twitter. Anders Carlson absolutely ran away with it. Here in the chat, Chris Nichols says Joseph. So he's set on Greg Joseph as his kicker. CJN said Carlson for me, second-year kicker in the NFL. Field goal percentage was in the 80s, and his extra point percentage will go up this year. And with sibling rivalry being a thing that motivates, I believe in his desire to be better than our beloved Mason Crosby, who had a mid-80 field goal percentage for his career, yet we consider him a Packer legend. So he went on to say, sorry, just odd how many or how we compare Love's first year with Rodgers, first-year stats, and everyone gets excited for another possible great. Yet when comparing Carlson to Crosby, the only stat Crosby was better the first year was extra point percentage, which was set up closer, obviously being snapped at the 2, and always in the middle of the field. Better leg and better field goal percentage, yet we want to run the guy out of town like Minnesota did his brother Dan. All right, so Sandy Lane Packer said, neither. I'm not sure what that means. Carly Ray chose Carlson. Larry Cano says Carlson. With changing his setup, it'll take time to build up confidence and consistency. Practice is different from game pressure. He should get better with more game action as the year progresses.
Yes,
Jason says Carlson. And Mountain Man Pack says Carlson. He has a big leg. Just needs to get more consistent with his kicking swing. He changed in this offseason. So great comments from Mountain Man Pack, Jason, Larry Cano, Carly Ray, Sandy Lane Packer, CJN, and Chris Nichols. Appreciate y'all contributing to the show there. Tim, I heard you say yes there, man. I tell you, Larry, spot on there. All of these are respectable for sure.
Oh, absolutely. These are all great comments on the everyone's favorite hot button topic right now besides AJ Dillon or whatever, but the Mr. Larry hit it on the head, man. I love that. This is one of the things that, I got to be careful when I talk about Greg Joseph because dude is a stand-up guy. I never thought I would like someone who used to play for Minnesota before. But I found a guy that is a good dude and a good teammate. And, if you want to look for Anders Carlson's biggest supporter in that locker room, it's probably him. So, I'll say this, when it comes to big games, we kind of got a little look at Anders last year, but we kind of put him behind the 8 ball in a big game with a big kick. Greg Joseph has been in some big games himself, and didn't turn out so good on the big kicks either. And what Larry's saying is so true. Preseason practice, simulated, team running at you, throwing water on you, yelling in your ear, music blaring in the background. That's all fine and dandy. 2 head coaches coming up with a game plan for a preseason game and trying to simulate 2-minute drill or, last second field goal. That's a hell of a lot different than, the NFC Championship game with, your life on the line. So I've always said this, I'll say it again, Anders has the higher ceiling. Greg Joseph is a guy that will, but I don't see it lasting more than a season. Anders is a guy that could kick for us for the next 10 to 12 plus years if everything works out okay. So I'm behind Anders, and I'm sticking to it. You heard it from a fan.
So for me, it's again, let's keep a close eye on cutdowns, because if you can find a better option and stash Anders on the practice squad and allow him to continue to get better. Again, I don't know who would be available. I don't want to be that guy that just says we need another kicker and not even know who's out there, and no one truly knows at the moment until those cutdowns happen. Obviously, there's going to be rumors, and don't be surprised if you see a team go and trade for a kicker, because they know there's still multiple teams that need kickers. And as soon as their guy gets cut, they may get beat to the punch there, and there might be a little bit of a bidding war. That's why some teams are willing to give up a 7th-round pick for like a K. York that for whatever reason they feel like is, hey, this might be our option at kicker. So it's going to be interesting to see as everything comes down to the wire and we approach Tuesday the 27th and cut downs. And then, of course, the mad scramble to the practice squad edition. So, again, if you guys want to join our Patreon group, just scan that QR code in the upper right or go to Packer Fan Total Access in the search engine on patreon.com. We appreciate everybody contributing there. All right, Tim, let's get into the PFF grades.
Can we handle something before we do that?
Yeah, absolutely. So,
I start a bunch of chats. I don't know if you want to flash them.
Sure.
We got to assure everyone that I am not in central booking. I'm not under arrest right now. I have my phone and all my personal property. I'm okay. I am. I'm not being held prisoner right now in any way, shape, or form. Shout out to everyone in the chat.
It's hilarious they said that, because what's the first thing I said to you? You look like you're in a prison cell, right?
Yeah. You get out a little rural, you go with that manufactured home. You get these little manufactured home type walls. So here's a good one. Prince Caspian, a monastery. I like that.
Yeah. He says, "What the hell's going on out there?" All right, let's see what else we got here. Dave MX6 says, "Blink twice, Tim, if you need help." There you go. AFM said Tim's waiting in the bathroom at Potter and Barn until his wife is done shopping. And then Prince in the chat said, "We need to mount up a posse and ride like you have never rode before. We must free Tim." There you go. Hashtag free Tim. Throw it up on Twitter, gang. We'll see if we can get that trending. So
now that we got that out of the way, I'm okay.
Yeah,
I didn't blink twice. I don't need help. I'm all right. Let's hit these PFF grades, man. I want to see my boy. I want to see my boy Christian Welch at the top of the list. Let's go.
Everyone who says they don't need help, Tim, they need help. That's usually how it works. They're going, "I don't need help." So, all right, here we go. So first things first. Now that the preseason is complete, to the best of my knowledge, there's no more games being played. There might be a not game tonight. I'm not sure. Nonetheless, the Packers graded out overall as the 10th best team according to PFF at a 70.8. Okay, so this is again throughout the preseason. Doesn't really mean anything, but just another tool, another reference we can use. Offensively, they graded out a 63.0. Passing grade was 58.2. Pass blocking 75.8. Receiving grade 62.5. Running grade 60.5. Run block 59.3. Defensively was a little bit better, 74.0. Run defense was 70.7. Tackle grade, once again, low, 50.6. Pass rush grade, 58.8. Coverage grade, 80.4. And special teams, 88.5. I believe that may have led the league at 88.5, although this is a screen grab. I can't sort it right now. But you're seeing immediately that coverage grade. Again, last year the coverage was a little bit suspect. You see 80.4 Jeff Hafley working with those guys. And once again, the tackle grade, I don't expect the tackle grade to get crazy better. The guys that are on the team are the guys that are on the team. And there's no denying that Goody goes after athletic freaks. He's not looking at the tape and going, I'd rather have a sure tackler over this guy who has way more elite athleticism, right? Yeah. So that's kind of, I think, what you're seeing. It could get better, though, with Campanelli and Ogabasi and all the new additions on the coaching roster. And listen, it's no secret either, Tim. These are backup grades, right? We didn't even hardly play our starters. So
right, we could probably click that tackle grade up a few notches once we get the ones out there consistently. But I think you bring up a great point, Clayton. Like, we'll find out Tuesday at 3, right? Who these guys are, they are who we thought they are, So, like you said, I will add this when it comes to the tackle grade. You're right. We got, high RAS guys. We know how Goody likes to draft. But what we have is we got this new DC here. We got Coach Half, and he's got these guys rallying to the ball carrier. We see a lot of gang tackling. You get a guy ISO'd one-on-one, he makes initial contact. Maybe he is struggling with that open field tackle, but guess what? There's 2 or 3 other green jerseys in the area immediately. And it's just the way he's going about this, executing this defense, where I think, maybe a little bit lower than we'd like tackle grade may not affect us as much as we think it will, because we're not putting guys out on islands, by themselves. So that would just be my little additional point there.
There you go. Good stuff, man. All right. Next, let's talk about the highest graded players from the matchup there Saturday afternoon at Lambeau against the Ravens. And then we'll dive into all of the players' grades. Okay, so these are the guys that really stood out. Number 1, Christian Welch, 94.3 PFF grade. Number 2, Aaron Mosby, 92.0 PFF grade. And again, we always talk about these aren't everything. I'm going to explain something with Aaron Mosby real quick. That strip sack got him a great grade. Yeah. If you go back and watch the tape, the left tackle missed assignment. He slid in. There was some kind of miscommunication. He slid in to block the guy inside, and it was basically a free rush from Aaron Mosby. I say that just to kind of go, hey, it wasn't like he beat his guy with a pass rush move, but good players capitalize. They maximize on those opportunities. It's exactly what Aaron Mosby did. Number 3, Chris Russell Jr., 90.3. Number 4, Malik Heath showed up and showed out, 82.4. And then Nate McCrary, one of the guys we've been talking about, that was a pleasant surprise in camp at running back, 81.7. So those are your top 5 highest graded players from the game against the Ravens. Tim, you're not allowed to talk about Christian Welch here, okay? Go ahead, man. You were raving over Christian Welch the other day, and then lo and behold, he comes out and just balls out in this final preseason game.
Yeah, no, absolutely. God, it's crazy to call him a bubble guy, but we know he's a bubble guy, right? Maybe not. If you're looking at precedents here, maybe not is where you're leaning, despite the fact that, this is just one game. I mean, you look at his entire camp and his entire preseason, man, this guy is just an output machine and execution machine. You got to think at the very least this dude's on the practice squad, at the very least. But, getting off of Christian Welch here for a minute. Mosby is impressive. And my boy, Malik Heath, I had a lot of love for him last year. I was pulling for him last year after, Grant DuBose kind of went down early in camp, and he had a decent season. And, Malik Heath has really put himself, he's kind of rounded out this training camp and this preseason on a high note. He really has, doing those small things. And, Nate McCrary is another guy you got to watch. I look at our running back room, and I see a lot of depth there as you look forward through the looking glass kind of into the future. And you certainly see at least one of those, whether it's Merriweather or McCray, one of these guys is probably going to be a practice squad dude as well, hopefully. So feel good about our team, guys. We're a couple of weeks away from Brazil and kicking off this season. And there's a lot to feel good about right now as a Packer fan.
Yeah. Eric Sutherland says Welch and Mosby both should make this team. I definitely agree with Welch. With Mosby, I think you're going to be able to stash him on the practice squad. I'll tell you a player it reminds me of here recently. I say recently, it was some time ago. Remember J-Ron Elliott? J-Ron Elliott had an awesome preseason. And I think it was the final preseason game of that year, balled out, made the roster, never did anything right after that. It was just like the regular season was a little too big for him type thing. I say that because that's kind of what I feel with Mosby. Welch, he's such a contributor all the way around that I think he's really, really valuable. And I don't think anyone's going to go snatch Mosby up. And I say that because the point I made before about the strip sack, if you say, here's Mosby's top 5 plays of preseason, you're probably going to come up with that one play and you're going to struggle to find the others. So if that's the way we're seeing it, I guarantee you teams are watching the tape and they're going to go, well, he didn't do anything spectacular there. He just maximized the blown block, right? As for Christian Welch, like LaFleur said, he baited the quarterback into throwing into that hook zone. Also, he's a huge special teams contributor. There's a lot more to like there. I think a little more value would carry over with other teams, if that makes sense. So
it's funny, on the other side of the ball, you can say that with Malik Heath.
Yes, absolutely.
A lot of the same thing. And, you look at these 5 right here on this list from, the final preseason game. It's like Christian Welch and Malik Heath. Those are your guys. Like if you had to pick 2 dudes that you're going to put on the roster, out of these high performers from this finale, it's probably Welch and Heath for sure.
Definitely. Andy A. Pack says, does Welch make the roster? Eyeball emoji, man. I'll tell you, I don't think it's a slam dunk, but I want him on the roster. I think he's earned it, and I think there's a legit shot someone will sign him if they don't put him on the 53. Coach Lynn says, watching the tape back, Malik Heath is a dog. We talked about it last year.
Yeah.
We joke all the time and call him water cooler because Emilio pointed out on an episode, pulled up the tape of him blocking someone out of bounds and all the way to the water cooler, right? That's the type of stuff you put on tape that really grabs coach's attention. On top of that, I think it was the Giants game where he made the great catch there at the very end, clutch catch, stayed in bounds at the goal line. Then you throw in the special teams aspect. He's physical. As Coach LaFleur says, no block, no rock. He is definitely willing to block. I think he'd rather block than get the rock, to be honest with you.
Right. That's something that you really like in a receiver, right? A guy that's almost a headhunter. He's looking for someone to hit. You see a lot of these receivers, man, they shy away from contact or they'll take a play off. Malik Heath is not that guy at all. He's a dog. Coach Lynn is right.
Yeah, definitely. Deadfish says, Clayton, Packers set 38 starters and near starters. Any idea how many of the Ravens players sat out? To the best of my knowledge, they played no starters.
Yeah.
So I would imagine probably, if I had to guess, Deadfish, I'd say somewhere between 20 and 30, something like that, maybe more. Just kind of thinking on the minimal side. So, yeah, it's a great point. And that's why we got to take that into perspective that, like we said, looking at the tackle grade, things like that, these are backups, right? So it's not like this is indicative of how the starters are going to play. I just think it's cool that we did get to see a lot of the depth on the team and at a pretty decent amount of snaps, Let's see here. Andy Apac says, kind of nice that after losing a great linebacker coach in Barry, that we're all still so excited for that room. And it's deep because Welch wouldn't be a bubble guy for most teams. I don't think he would be a bubble guy. I really don't. I think most teams he's kind of that backup backer and someone that obviously is could lead your special teams. So, and I agree with what you said about Joe Barry. It's the whole reason he got hired.
Yep.
He is a fantastic linebacker coach, and that's what he's back to doing, I think, in Miami now. So it's crazy. He goes to Miami, and then we poached Campanelli away from them. So it's like Barry goes down to coach the linebackers. Now we get Coach Campanelli up here to coach our linebackers. So
it just shows you how the league really works, right? This league, it's always a little song and dance. We're playing chess, not checkers, right? So I'm just happy that Coach Camp is here, man. It's a pleasure to watch him scream at people in practice.
Right.
Sure.
Prince in the chat says a surprise would be if they kept Welch over Wilson.
Yes.
Man, that would be a hell of a surprise.
Well, let's be real. Who's had a better preseason?
It's Welch.
Let's be honest.
Yeah, it's Welch.
And that's not a knock on Wilson at all. Wilson is another dog, another super reliable guy, another special teamer, a guy that is – it's good to have these kind of problems, right? We're sitting here debating two super talented guys who's going to be on the roster, who's not. It's like either way it goes, I think we're in a good spot.
Yeah, definitely. It's hilarious, man. People are still talking kickers. I love it. I absolutely love it. Let's move on to the offensive side of the ball. PFF grades for the Ravens game here, Tim. And this is what we've got. At the top of the list on the offensive side of the ball, Malik Heath, 82.4 on 29 snaps. In the passing game, his grade was 80.5. Run blocking grade, 61.5, which is pretty damn solid for a wide receiver. That's awesome. Nate McCrary, 81.7 off of 14 snaps. All right. Caleb Jones, left tackle, 34 snaps, 78.8. Had a pass blocking grade of 83.2, a run blocking grade of 76.4. Tim,
oh my gosh, an O lineman that can run block? Let's go.
The hell's going on out here? Dude, is there a chance that Caleb Jones could be the backup left tackle over Andre Dillard?
I mean, 3 years in the making, right?
Yeah, I mean,
with him, let's go. I'm all for it, man. You talk about a get off the bus guy. Holy cow!
Oh yeah, no doubt about it, man. And look at this, Travis Glover. This is Emilio's guy, right tackle, 44 snaps, 76.5, pass blocking grade of 71.0, run blocking grade of 76.8. He was mauling people. Let's go, dude. Let's freaking go. Next is Henry Pearson, 15 snaps just added to the roster, 75.9 run blocking grade of 78.0. Pretty good stuff there. So those are your top five on offense, Tim. We'll continue to go, but you tell me what you think about those top five or anything else you see here, man.
Sorry, I broke up there for a second.
I
just caught Henry Pearson picking up right where he left off, right? I mean, I'm glad he's back. We'll see how long. Feel good about how these guys are looking. Again, we're talking about our supporting cast here, right? Yep. When it comes to guys like Caleb Jones or any of these O linemen, I know this sounds crazy, but I feel like Matt LaFleur's offense is dynamic enough. We see the zipper motion, we see the yo-yo motion, we see the illusion of complexity and the deception, and then we do see plays that are actually complex, and it's like, oh my gosh, what are we doing? I would gladly give up a little bit I know this sounds nuts, but I'd give up a little bit of pass pro to see my O linemen, knocking some D linemen on their keisters, and we're run blocking. And, that's just a throwback to old school hard-nosed football, man. You want your O line going downhill and just knocking people down, run blocking.
That would be my personal preference too. But Tim, unfortunately, precedent, the Packers, it seems like the only thing they care about is pass blocking. You know what I mean? It seems like in the past.
I totally get it. And we have to. I mean, look at our quarterbacks, right? I mean, this is what we do here. You're not gonna put guys like Favre, Rodgers, and now Jordan Love in these positions, and then not put an emphasis on that pass pro. And I just think that if we got just a little bit better in some of our run fits offensively, man, we could be lethally dangerous when it comes to our offense. I'm talking 30, 40-point games on the regular, because if you can't stop us in the pass game, and then, the run blocking's there, and we've got, Josh Jacobs and, Emmanuel Wilson, Marshawn Lloyd, these type of guys, it's going to be tough to stop us. So I guess trading one for the other is not what I really should be saying. I guess maybe put a little bit of emphasis on that run blocking too. We already know protecting Jay Money is the priority. And I think everyone on that O-line understands that. I think we should just sneak in a little extra homework on the run fits.
Yeah. Coach Lynn in the chat says Telford, Dillard, and Glover get the 8, 9, and 10 spot on the 53, in my opinion, talking about offensive line. And when you look at it, if you were to, let's say we were only going to base who we're going to keep on the roster as backups based off of this last game and their PFF grade. If that was the case, you would say Caleb Jones is your backup left tackle, Travis Glover is your backup right tackle, and you probably keep Telford as their backup. You know what I mean? Like that third guy. Glover, and again, Glover played great too. Actually, Glover, you'd have to go with Glover over Telford, wouldn't you? You would. You'd have to say take Glover over Telford. So, I mean, they really, really helped themselves here. They put some good tape out there too for other teams who are going to be combing through. So you got to – this is what Matt LaFleur was talking about. It's a 69-man roster. It's not a 53-man roster. You got to play this like you may think one of these guys, from your own personal opinion, is better than the others, but if they really showed out in the preseason, you might have a better shot of keeping the less qualified player on your active roster and stashing the guy that maybe showed a little bit better tape, you know, and when it was when the camera was rolling. So because that's what teams are going to look at. You know, they can't see the practices.
Yep.
So,
you know, Coach LaFleur also touched on it. I think it was one of the pressers where he was saying that, you know, it's a difficult time, obviously, for the coaching staff and the front office here making these decisions. But you have to look at the entire camp. You really have to look at the body of work, and that's what they're doing. So the third and final preseason game, I think you're absolutely right there. You know, you have to take that in consideration because it's a part of the whole process. But, you know, for some of these guys, Caleb Jones in particular comes to mind. You know, you see that final push. Malik Heath, another one, had himself a hell of a game on Saturday. And, you know, you want to finish strong. You know, if coaches already have their mind made up, you want to reaffirm that opinion. And, you know, if they're on the fence with you, you want to tilt them towards your way. You don't want to hurt yourself in your chances in that last game. And I think some of these guys certainly stepped up here on Saturday.
Yeah. Dave's MX6 says, telling you Glover is good, so we have found Emilio's burner account there. Emilio is in the chat tonight. Nah, I tell you, Dave, he balled out according to PFF here against the Ravens for sure. All right, let's move on to the defensive side of the ball, Tim. This is really exciting. This is definitely the bright point all preseason long is the defensive side. Christian Welch, 94.3 on 27 snaps. His coverage grade, 94.7. Tackle grade of 79.3, run defense grade of 64.2.
Dog.
Definitely. Aaron Mosby, 17 snaps. So, you know, 10 snaps fewer than Christian Welch. Coming off the edge, 92 was the overall PFF grade. Pass rush grade of 85.4. He had a tackle grade of 69.2, pretty damn good for an edge defender. And then a run defense grade of 65.0. Chris Russell Jr., weak side line.
Who?
Exactly. 25 snaps, 90.3. Had a run defense grade of 81.5 at the wheel, 77.1 tackle grade, and a 76.8 coverage grade for Chris Russell Jr. That's just wild. They got a strong look at Jamon Green at the left cornerback position. 52 snaps, 81.1 with a coverage grade of 81.4. And let's see what we got here. A tackle grade of 78.9, a run defense grade of 69.9. And then in the number 5 spot, my boy Kalen King, 51 snaps, 80.8 grade. He had a tackle grade of 80.6, a coverage grade of 87.3. Run defense, if you were to say, Clayton, you got to paint a cornerback a certain way, how do you want them to line up? Their run fit is the last thing I would worry about. I would want coverage grade and their ability to tackle. Those are the two things that are most important to me. And he just knocked those out of the park in this last preseason game. I think Kalen King, as a 7th-round pick, is kind of most likely short up his spot here because I think there's going to be other people that's got Kalen King on their radar if they do try to cut them and pass them through waivers. So that's your top 5, Tim. You have the floor, sir. What sticks out to you in there?
Is it Jamon Green? Germon Green?
The way I understood it is like Jamon.
Okay, so Jamon Green, Kalen King, those dudes were freaking everywhere on Saturday. They were absolute monsters on that field. And you talk about guys fighting for a spot, right? This is why I love the preseason so much. I think Kalen King's for sure on this team. I don't know what your thoughts are, but I think he's flashed enough consistently throughout this camp that I think he's probably got a spot. What do you think, Clayton?
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment where you said flashed, because there's been times he's looked bad, but there's been times he's looked really good, you know?
Right.
So yeah, I think, again, when you're looking at it from the 69-man roster perspective, I think Kalen King, there's a decent chance he would get signed by someone else as to be their fifth or sixth corner on their roster. So I think you got to keep him. I mean, if you were to dive into it and say, all right, who are the other cornerbacks? You know, obviously you got Jair Alexander, you got Eric Stokes, you got Keyshawn Nixon, right?
Yeah.
You got Corey Ballantyne, right? That's 4. If you went Kalen King 5, I'm trying to think, and I deleted the depth chart stuff because I want to update it here as we get the new one in. Who else am I missing here at corner that's pretty much a lock to make the roster here?
Oof.
So I think that's pretty much it. I'm going to have to pull it up now. It's going to drive me crazy.
That 5 or 6 is probably where we're going to cap out, right?
I would imagine so. I mean, when we look at it from last year, the final 53, we kept
4.
4.
Wow.
Yeah. So
see, I like King because we talk about Javon Bullard's ability to play in the slot, but I like Javon Bullard as a safety, and I'd prefer him there. I know he can play the slot, but if Kalen King can play the slot, but then again, we have the Evan Williams factor too, who very well may be that dude back there. So, you know, we may have the ability to pepper in a guy like Javon Bullard slot, which would obviously, you know, make things a little bit more difficult for a guy like Kalen King. The other X factor here that we've touched on a few times is Eric Stokes Jr., who's had himself a pretty solid camp and is poised to, you know, make a comeback here as a corner on this team, as a starting corner on this team. So there's a lot of variables, man. There really is.
Yeah, and as one of the corners it was slipping my mind was our boy Carrington Ballantyne.
Ballantyne, yes.
Ballantyne's making this roster. He is listed on ESPN's depth chart as questionable currently. So maybe that there's a chance that he has to go on IR or something. I don't know how significant that is. But when you look at the cornerback position as a whole, if you kept 4, it'd be Jair Alexander, Eric Stokes, Keyshawn Nixon, and probably Carrington Ballantyne if you only kept 4. Now, if Carrington's hurt, it comes down to Kalen King and Corey Ballantyne, right? If you go with 5, those are the 2 guys that you're looking to potentially knock off of the roster is one of the 2 of Corey Ballantyne and Kalen King. I love Corey Ballantyne. My pick would probably be, God, that's tough on me, man. Holy cow. That's 2 of my favorite corners on the team.
Yep.
Oh, man, that's frustrating.
Yep.
I think I just want the answer to be carry 5.
Right, exactly, right.
Carry 5 if Carrington is on the injured reserve there to start the season. No reason to think that it's that significant, but it is just something to kind of keep our eye on in that regard. So, cornerback's going to be interesting. Do you only carry 4 again? Do you carry 5? Do you even carry 6? Because it just seems like no matter what position you look at, Tim, we'll just carry an extra one there. And then you look up and you got 70 guys on the roster going, we got to cut some people.
I mean, I'm old enough to remember when it's like, who the hell's going to play corner in Green Bay? What the heck's going on? And now it's like, who do we have to let go, even though we don't want to? It's a good problem to have. It really is.
Yeah, no doubt about it, man. So back to the defensive grades here. Outside of the top 5, like if you were to kind of climb down and go, okay, who did not perform well? Katano Ladapo at a 48, according to PFF. Again, it doesn't mean it's everything, but
that penalty really, really screwed him.
Yeah, for sure. It hurts. Yeah. I'd say if he didn't have the penalty, probably graded out in the 50s, something like that. Yeah. Let's see who else we got on this list that really kind of pops toward the bottom. Benny Sapp has been balling out, and he's a 43.5. So probably not going to be on the roster with how loaded that safety room is. Maybe a practice squad guy, something to keep an eye on there. So Corey Ballantyne just being Corey Ballantyne, though, just steady 66. You know, never at the bottom, never at the top type guy. So
right. I was going to say Deadfish had a good comment here. I thought Anthony Johnson Jr. would have had a better PFF score.
Yeah, for me, I don't know how that scoop and score grades in here. It may not even affect the grade. But just think about it. It wasn't, he could have been out of position. He could have gotten beat on a coverage route on that play.
Yeah.
negative marks, right?
It's true.
That could have been the case. But yeah, the tackle grade was a 42.5. My head's spinning right now, to be honest with you. Like the preseason, it's always like this. With so many guys coming in and out of the game, I try not to stress myself out, keying in on play. Oh, who is that? Who is that? It's like, no, I'm going to look at this damn thing globally. And then when we get to the regular season, that's when I'm going to zero in on specific players because it is a lot. I mean, a lot to keep up with, man. Anything that you did here on the defensive side of the ball before we move on to special teams, Tim?
Yeah, no, I think you're right about that. It just shows how PFF really grades these players, right? Because we can be at a game, we can watch it on TV, whatever. We can look for our guys, we can try and key in and watch how they're playing, and we can feel like a guy had himself a game. And then you see PFF and how they break these things down, every snap, every play, and the tail of the tape doesn't quite add up to how we necessarily felt. And Anthony Johnson Jr. I think is a great example of that. I was at the game and it's like I felt like, wow, this guy had a day. And then it's like you kind of get into the meat and potatoes of it and you're like, well, did he? did he really? And you can see it here right now. The one thing I will say overall, when it comes to the team grades and the individual grades, the fact that we're not seeing a lot of as much orange and red as we saw last year is a good sign. We're seeing a lot of green and blues on this list, maybe some yellows, but the red numbers are starting to dwindle, which is a great sign that your team is improving.
Yeah, definitely. Ron Samuel in the chat said, I got to say, I've never watched the cut downs like this until this show makes preseason fun. Ron, it was forever. I was just like, the preseason is stupid. And then I heard people like Michael Lombardi and Pat Kerwin say, and they both got somewhat aggressive with it. If you hear someone say the preseason is pointless, they are casual, and tune them out because this stuff is so important. And it took me forever to understand that. And when you do start to kind of dive in and go, okay, I say this a lot, and we probably fail miserably at it. But the purpose of the show, Packers Total Access, is to try to bring you guys a podcast and a show from the perspective of the organization. What's the front office doing and thinking right now? What is the coaching staff doing and thinking right now? What are the players doing and thinking right now in terms of training and where their minds are at? Like, I want to look at it like almost like we're the not the B team, not the C team, not even the D team, but maybe the E team of the Packers organization. If we were in charge, what will we be keying in on right now? Therefore, what is the team focused on? And when you look at the preseason from that perspective, Ron, you don't find yourself going, God, I want to get the preseason over with. You find yourself going, I kind of wish they'd have played another game. This is cool, But nobody's going to argue with regular season football. No doubt about that. Because I'm telling you, man, it's a different animal. But I appreciate the kind words there, Ron, for sure. If you guys would hit that like button for us, feel free to sub to the channel. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. We go live daily, in some cases 2 or 3 times a day. We're starting to turn the corner, and this channel is going to be almost like an active network on a daily basis where you may have multiple shows a day and just bringing you guys breaking news, things like that. So we really appreciate y'all hanging out with us. It helps more than just taking a quick second and hitting that like button. And feel free to, like I said, sub to the channel. So let's go to special teams, Tim. And this one I had to share the screen here because I didn't want to do it in multiple screenshots. So when you're talking about some of these players in these bubble spots as we get closer to Tuesday's cut down in the 53-man roster, and then, of course, the practice squad 24 hours later, special teams plays a huge role in this, right? And, Ellis Merriweather, the thing that stood out to me, let me bounce back one second here. I want to show you this. Ellis Merriweather on this roster, look at his pass blocking grade, 14.9. Now, think about what has kept Emmanuel Wilson off of the roster in the last few years is because his ability to not contribute at the level that Coach LaFleur and the rest of the coaches want him to in the passing game is what's really kind of hurt him. You see his grades are significantly higher than Merriweather. So I immediately seen that and went, yeah, there's no way Merriweather probably isn't making the practice squads, what I thought. Now we jumped over to the other deciding factor, which is special teams. And look who's at the top of the list, Tim. Albeit just 16 or just 6 snaps, but 77.8 for Ellis Merriweather. So evidently had him a game there on special teams. LJ Davis at a 77.4. And then this right here is the kicker. This is, I don't want to say the deciding factor, but this is one of, if not the main reasons for Christian Welch to make this active 53. Another solid performance on special teams, 75.6 PFF grade in special teams. Phenomenal. Brenton Cox Jr., 74.7. Jamon Green. Someone in the chat said it's Gamon Green. I thought I seen the pronunciation Jamon Green, Juh, but I could be wrong there.
I'm calling him the double G. Double G.
73.8. Look at Emmanuel Wilson special teams grade. Only 3 snaps, but 70.2. Kalen King, 68.7. Anthony Johnson Jr., 66.1. Chris Russell Jr., there's that who again, Tim, 65.7.
Yep.
Jalen Wayne, 64.6. Tyron Hopper, a 61.3. Jacob Monk, 61.3. And you're getting kind of into the lower part. Let's start with the top here, Tim. What sticks out to you about special teams from
Christian Welch in the top 5 again, like he is in every other category, right? I mean, that just jumps off the page. And, you know, you got to root for the guy, right? I mean, Iola, Wisconsin, hometown kid, right? And undrafted, the whole story. But then it's like, yeah, there's all of that factor, but let's look at the numbers here. The numbers don't lie either. I mean, this guy is making a case. The guy is making a case. And, you know, there's a lot worse things that you can do than having a guy like that on your team. So I'm all for it. I can't wait to get my jersey on Tuesday.
For people who say PFF isn't everything, I agree. And they may say, you got to look at the stat column. You look at the stat column, he has an interception, right, and tackles. All right. And people that say, well, stat, you know, that doesn't mean anything. You turn on the tape and he flashed all over the tape, baiting the quarterback. It's like there's no argument against Christian Welch right now. Now, with that being said, every year this happens, they'll probably cut Christian Welch and won't even try to put him on the practice squad. Something like that happens every year, and we go, what? But again, that's how it usually goes.
I tell you, you know what I think about when I think about a guy like Christian Welch? I think about, you know, season on the line, much like it was last year, right? Came down to those last few games we had to win. And, you know, you get a guy like Zay McDuffie or a guy like Quay or, you know, Wilson, somebody we need them the most and they're banged up and they got to sit out a play. You know, sometimes you get that shot, you got to sit out a play or two. Well, that play or two could mean our season. And if you got a guy like Christian Welch coming off that sideline and you need him to play one snap for you and to be perfect, I feel like he's going to do it. And that factor alone really makes me want him on this team, honestly. And again, all the while contributing on special teams for us. You know, we can't ignore that factor as we see here. The numbers don't lie.
Yeah, definitely, man. Let's see here. Drew D in the chat says Iola puts on the best car show in the state. Love it. Absolutely.
Amen.
That's
Amen.
Carly Ray in the chat said, let's try out Welch at backup quarterback.
I just saw Can Welch kick. I just saw that in the chat.
That's already our reminder. There it is. If he makes the roster, that's going to be the running joke all year long. We're going to have Welch doing it. Can Welch call the plays? Let's let Welch call the offensive plays for Matt LaFleur.
Oh my goodness,
I love it. So let's look at who did not perform on special teams. Matt Orzik, my goodness, man, 10 snaps, 39.7. Not sure.
Bro, that's your whole job.
That's crazy.
Your whole existence is special.
I would love to know what he did wrong. I'm assuming it's probably placement on the snaps would be my guess. Wouldn't you think, Tim?
I think so. They're probably looking at left, right, high, low, right? They're looking at timing, you know, in those situations, and probably also the get off, right? It's one thing to snap that ball.
That's a good
but
point.
are you effective once you do it? Are you getting, you know, are you ass over tea kettle after you snap the ball? Then you're probably not going to bring much value. So that's tough to see, man. 39.7 there for a score for your long snapper. I mean, your whole job is special teams. You gotta.
Yeah. Respect Orange just says bring back Bowden. Here's the thing. It's not out of the realm of possibility. They do this. They think they did this last year where they went into the initial 53 with no long snappers. And then the very next day they signed one. Right. So there's a chance that could happen again this year, whether it's Bowden or Orzik. But that Orzik grade, that's pretty cheeks, man. No doubt about it.
Yeah.
Drew D said, how are we?
I'm sorry. I got a little delay on my end. Like Jacob talked about being, you know, a double threat kind of player. Like he's talked about, you know, like a guy that can kick and punt or something, you know, where you save a roster spot, someone that you can trust to do double duty. Like maybe we just need a dude that can, play a little center or play a little guard and be a long snapper. And you have a roster spot where he's not a specialist. He's not just coming out there, on punts and field goals. He's, a guy that you can trust on a regular basis, even in a backup role. That's what I think of. But, Christian Welch, hopefully, he gets it together, but that's tough to look at. And that goes a long way when, you look at your special teams as a whole, because, Daniel Whelan the guy's a freak as a punter. And if that ball's not going where it's supposed to be, it's going to make his job more difficult.
Yeah, definitely. Drew D says, how are we so bad at finding long snappers? Drew, this is the same thing I say about kickers. It's like on the entire face of the planet, we can't find 32 people who are just elite at kicking a football. And that's the casual fan in me, right? And the same
Right.
long snapper, I'm going, on the entire face of the earth, we can't find a good long snapper. But then if you ask me to go out in the yard and do it, no way I can do it.
There's probably a dude at JUCO right now that's crushing it that nobody's even looking.
Right, yeah. But it's how do you find him, right? How do you
Yep.
find him? That's the thing. So
Exactly.
yeah. A couple other names on here that kind of popped to me in special teams at the bottom of the list. Benny Sapp, because he had been playing so well. Seemed like he just had a bad game. Katano Ladapo, too, man. 58.3 on specials. Not a good look. We were talking about Aaron Mosby balling out. Now, imagine this. You take away the blown block that led to the strip sack. We're not even talking about Aaron Mosby, right? Like, we're not even
Right.
we're looking at him going, special teams grades bad, didn't really impact the game. One play, that's why it's important to kind of put that thing into context. Albeit, again, he maximized the play. I'm not trying to dog him. But I guarantee you that's how the coaches are looking at it too. Like, okay, did he really win that rep, right? So it is what it is. Grant DuBose. Seems like Grant DuBose is probably going to be the guy they try to put on the practice squad, Tim. His special teams grade 59.7. Obviously, he had a bad couple of games these last two games. I believe he had a bad game yesterday too. Let me double check here. Grant DuBose, where does he fall on the list? Yeah, 45.8. Kind of feels like Malik Heath and Bo Melton are going to be 5 and 6 if he carries 6, and they're going to put Grant DuBose back on the practice squad. And I know you like Grant DuBose. I like him too, but I think you got correct me if I'm wrong. It feels like that's the best shot to keep all three, because you're probably going to lose Bo Melton or Malik Heath if you try to clear them through waivers. Don't you think?
I agree. That's automatic. But I also think Grant's gone too. I really do. He's got a high ceiling. He's got a lot of those attributes that we like. It's funny,
Big
watching
body too, right? 6'2".
Yeah, big body dude, great hands. Put a lot of emphasis on his route running ability. He's running routes better. We know he's willing to get down and dirty in the run game and get out there and block. And I just think he's got a really high ceiling, and I think he's put enough. I think he's put enough on tape too to he's got to be on at least a handful of teams' radar. So I don't know if he's necessarily safe, but I do agree 100% with your point that you keep Bo, you keep Malik, and then you hope nobody is paying attention to Packers preseason, and Grant can sit there on that practice squad. I will say this, Grant has done everything that the organization asked him to do. He had an opportunity to go play in the UFL, and he turned it down because he was advised not to do that, and to just get his off season together and focus on trying to make this roster. And he has fought tooth and nail to even be in the conversation right now. And again, it's just kind of one of those things where Malik had himself a game on Saturday, and Bo had himself a game as well, and that may be what tilts the scales in their favor. And hey, we had those guys on the roster last year. We've talked a lot about Malik Heath. We talked about the lightning fast resurgence of Bo Melton as soon as he got healthy and got out there, and we got to see him in some games. So I agree, Clayton. I think you put Grant on the practice squad at this point, but we could be surprised. We could Tuesday afternoon, we could all be surprised, and Grant DuBose could be your receiver 6.
Yeah, we got the man, the myth, the legend, Rob Westerman in the house. Good to see you, buddy. from GBP Daily said, evening crew, agreed, Tim. Grant is putting that work in this offseason. If he doesn't make it, hopefully he'll survive waivers. Amen to that.
Yep.
Man, good to see you in here, Rob. Appreciate you swinging through, buddy. Let's see here. Coach Lynn in the chat says, every team has guys on the bubble that have been in their system. I think we get him back. That's a good point. Like what Coach Lynn, and correct me if I'm wrong, Coach, but I think what Coach Lynn is saying here is as much as we like our guys and we're worried about losing them, other teams are looking at their guys the same way, right? Like, man, I hope we get these guys back. They're not looking – I mean, they're looking at the waiver wire, don't get me wrong, but when you look across the league, and let's say from our perspective, do we keep Grant DuBose on the practice squad or do we go find another receiver that we think is quote-unquote better? One thing that comes into factor, you may go, yeah, he's slightly better than Grant DuBose, but he doesn't know our system. And it's going to slow down our scout team. It's going to slow down the things we want to accomplish in practice. You know what I mean? So I think we do as fans, there's a lot of nervous energy when the final cuts happen. That's why most of the time the guys we want end up on the practice squad, right? So,
yeah, I'd say we do the old we do the Alex Magoo move, right? We made Magoo a receiver there for a hot second. Let's turn Grant DuBose into a long snapper. Let's just list him as long snapper and park him on that practice squad. Keep him under the radar.
Definitely. United Bates says Milton was released in final cuts last year and made a name for himself when activated late season. You never know. Great point there. Carly Ray says, and we can't forget that coaches and training staff have 1,000 times more information on these players than we do. Carly, thank you so much. Because we always give our opinion. We being me. I'm always giving my opinion, but I always want you guys and gals to know that any comment I make, just insert yourself at the end of the sentence. But Goody has forgot way more football than I'll ever know. So,
in Goot we trust.
Exactly. Coach Lynn agrees. Said exactly, Clayton. All right, good stuff, buddy. All right, man. Let's wrap this big bear up. Here's what I wanted to do, gang, and I apologize. Time got away from us, but it was a great conversation. I wanted to go through all of the Packers preseason grades as a whole. Like, okay, here throughout the entire preseason, here's our top performers from PFF's perspective, that type of thing. We're going to hit on that tomorrow. So tomorrow evening, we'll hit on that. We'll hit on everyone's projected 53-man roster as we go in to the night. And obviously on the eve of cut downs, because the next day we're going to be talking about the 53-man roster. It's going to be awesome. So Carly says she had a question. Go ahead, Carly. Fire away. But yeah, so Tim, that's kind of what we're going to do tomorrow. We'll look at the preseason grades as a whole for the Packers and then hit on some of those final 53s. Any parting thoughts here before she asks her final question here, Tim?
No, this is great. Glad I could do this, pull this off. I made it up here in time. This is a great convo, man. This is that time. It's almost like being a kid, waiting for Christmas Eve. You're kind of excited. You can't really sleep. You want to see what you're going to get. And I'm just looking forward to Tuesday afternoon. We'll have a lot more to talk about. Like you said, Clayton, it gets real, serious once you get that 53 and that practice squad locked in, and then we can really focus on these specific players and their roles. So a lot to look forward to.
Yeah, I found it, Carly. I found her question. She said it was up in the chat. So she said, question about using a center or guard for snapper, but could the coaches risk a long snapper getting hurt mid-game while playing another position? I think there's a two-part to that question, Carly. You answered one of it, right? Like, if they get hurt, we are screwed, right? With long snapper, not to say long snappers can't get hurt during the game with what they do, but less likely that you have that guy. And also, a long snapper is typically a smaller dude. It's usually kind of a tight end type build, a little bit heavier than a tight end, and they're specialists. Carly, I think you've been listening to Jacob a little too long. I'm going to blame this on Jacob. Jacob says, why can't we have a kicker that punts and holds his own kicks and all that good stuff, does everything? But that's tongue in cheek. I'm joking. But yeah, with long snapper, it's definitely. I understand what you're saying. On the surface, you go, why can't Josh Myers just be the long snapper? He's got the most experience snapping at shotgun. Totally different animal. Yeah. And like you said, I really wouldn't have thought about it until you mentioned it, Carly, that if they get hurt on a play in the second quarter, who are we putting in at long snapper now, right? It'd probably be someone like Zach Tom or Elton Jenkins, who had snapper experience, as far as from the center position. But that's what NFL coaches do. To the best of my knowledge, there's not one single long snapper in the league that is a regular down player. So we kind of goes hand in hand with what we just said about these coaches know way more than us as fans, So, she says, no, I understand and agree. It supports the long snapper being a specialist. Absolutely. Yeah. It's a unique position for sure. That's a position I wouldn't want. And I know they protect them now with the rules where you can't line up directly over them. Used to, they could just tee off on those guys.
Yeah.
That becomes a mental thing, Tim. Knowing I'm about to get annihilated as soon as I snap this ball.
Yeah, or I'm going to stay low and try to not get annihilated, and then the guy's going to hurdle me and jump right over me. So it's the league made some changes for sure.
Yeah. All right, let's get out of here, Tim. Anything else, Bo?
No, man. Great show. Happy to be here, and looking forward to chatting some more this week as we figure out who this team is going to be as we head into Brazil.
Absolutely. Sounds good. You notice when Emilio and Jacob aren't here, the show we don't reach that point where the show sucks. Kind of cool. Right? We didn't have to say it sucks. I'm just joking. They're awesome. So obviously, like I said, Jacob's on assignment tonight over at Brookview Meadows, and Emilio is MIA right now. He's on the back of a milk carton. We'll see if he pops up.
Well, we know Jacob's not hearing us right now. It's past their bedtime over there at
Brookview
Meadows.
People are going, what the hell is Brookview Meadows? Google it. You'll eventually put these inside jokes together, and maybe someday I'll make Jacob explain it live on the air. So, anyway, we're out, guys. We appreciate y'all hanging out with us. Tim, help me out here, man.
For those of you listening on the pod,
thank you for making us a part of your day. We will be back tomorrow for overall preseason grades as we get ready for final cut downs, and we'll hit on some of the beat writers, 53-man roster projections, all that good stuff. So, as always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.